We're here to bring solutions to problems on the earth and where it is that God's called us. And if we have health problems, God has the answer. And it's knowing when to surrender to Him, which is always, to find out what His solution is to the problem. Sometimes I think I know what the solution is, and He'll tell me something completely different. But you need somebody advocating for you, and you need to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to know that there's a realm out there of solutions that most people aren't aware of.
This is the Seeds for Your Marriage podcast, where we interview married couples who have overcome difficulties in their marriage and share their testimony of how they did it. We want these tips and tools to inspire and help you thrive in your marriage.
We are Trisha and Thomas Walker, relationship coaches. We teach couples proven strategies to connect deeply and achieve God's design for an amazing marriage.
Seeds for Your Marriage.
Well, hello, this is Trisha and Thomas, and welcome to the Seeds for Your Marriage podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we just want to welcome Sam and Norma Bart Williams. And why don't you guys just share a little bit about who you are and what you do, and we'll go into what we're going to cover on this podcast today.
So, a little bit about me. Grew up in England and Africa. Migrated over here when I was 20 years old. Interested in a lot of different things, sports. But really, everything I do now is centered around the Lord, whether it's the relationship with my kids, with Norma, my work, everything I do, I involve the Lord. There's nothing I try to leave Him out of. And so He directs my life. Now we're playing pickleball together now, finally. It only took us over 30 years to find out what an activity we could do together.
Yeah.
We're finally sharing.
You don't have to move much in pickleball.
No, exactly.
It's beautiful.
It's amazing. But the way I play, you wouldn't know it. I'm a little aggressive.
Are you pretty intense? Okay.
Yeah.
Very intense.
That's awesome. And Norma, so you guys have been married 30 years?
Migrated or immigrated from another country, which was the British Virgin Islands.
Mm-hmm.
And at the age of 14, so I've been here ever since. And it's different. It's something new. And like he said, yes, when we met, it was special. He was the one. And we found the Lord together, which was really nice. Even though we both knew the Lord, we got closer to the Lord together, which was really nice. And like he says, everything we do, we seek the Lord. From the time I get up, I get in my car, that's my prayer room. Prayer room on the go, and we seek the Lord. And
That's amazing. Well, we're so excited to spend this time with you both today. First and foremost, because of your dedication to a life that just honors and glorifies Jesus and brings kingdom to earth, but also the impact that you have in many, many lives through both of your vocations. And obviously that you have a marriage, and this is a marriage podcast, and you've been at it for 31 years, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
So that's amazing. So we just have so many places that I know this conversation is going to go. Why don't we just take a minute, though, and Sam and Norm, if you would just talk a bit about your professions and what you do day to day.
Sure. So I leveraged my background in engineering and technology to help people get to the root cause of their health issues and help them reverse it. I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't prescribe medications, but I help people understand what's going on in their bodies, and then I coach them through a process with recommendations of how to address those issues, giving them symptom relief short term, and then also giving them long-term solutions that they can maintain throughout the rest of their lives.
As for me, I work for a nonprofit agency. I've worked for them for 22 years, just celebrated 22. And we work with social services in Alameda County. And we work with families who are in need of childcare services. But we do more than that. We provide resources that strengthen the family. And we are now starting to do mental health, which I think is very important based on the conditions of society today.
Yeah.
And we just want to make sure that we are doing what I would think that God has put us here to do. I feel, because when I first was looking for this job, I asked God, where does he see me? And, you know, and he led me there. In fact, I ended up a day early there. And it was like, I said, yes, this is good. And so it's been quite a journey and quite an experience. And I'm really glad that I found that position. And I thank God every day that I meet the people that I do. And there is such a need that, that sometimes it just overwhelms us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
overwhelming sometimes.
Well, we're just really excited to have you both here. I know the big topic that we are covering today is on just our body health, our soul health, our spirit health, and how all of those three things combine and interrelate and really can affect even our relationships, our families. And yeah, so let's just dive right in.
Let's dive. So, root cause
Mm.
versus symptoms.
Mm.
And without going too deep into the state of medicine in this country,
Sure.
just a high level perspective and what you see, and maybe just a starting point of like what you do on a day-to-day basis, and how you're helping people get from that short term to the long term sustainable solutions. And
Sure.
I don't know if there's a question in there, but
Yeah,
it's a
I think
tee up for you to just start talking, Sam.
sure. All right. As no one knows, I don't have a problem talking. But when it comes to the state of things, as you said before, typically they address the symptoms. Yes, they address the fruit and not the root. If you want to change the fruit, you've got to change the root. And in order to change the root, you've got to know what the root causes are. And so it's about getting an understanding of how our body works. That it's the Lord showed me that our body is a system of interconnected systems. And since I used to build systems, software systems and hardware network systems, that made sense to me because when I used to troubleshoot, instead of covering up, I mean, if you solve the root issue, you solve many issues at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key there. Instead of, in fact, one time this Lord gave me this image of whack-a-mole. That's basically what you're doing when you're hitting and something else is coming up. And so just trying to get an understanding of how the body, the principles of the body work, that things are interconnected. In conventional medicine, for example, things are typically siloed. So you have the cardiologist, you have the endocrinologist, and many times one system is affecting the other. And so you really need somebody with an overall understanding of how these different systems interconnect and affect each other so that you can see what's possibly the underlying cause to what's causing the symptoms in somebody. So initially, when I used to, there's several parts of what I do. One is testing. We like to say test, don't guess. So I usually recommend testing. And then I definitely recommend that people work with their physicians, their primary care physicians. But you want to be the person that's in charge of managing your own health. It's kind of like your finances. You want to be, you may have a financial advisor, but you want to know how finances work. Just as much part of what I do is education. I teach people to learn to understand how their body works, and not only their body but how that interrelates with their mind, how they're thinking, and then many times spiritual as well. Most of the people I tend to minister to in health actually tend to be Christians. Sometimes not. I've led like a couple of them to the Lord that weren't Christians, but this way you get to address all three of those areas wherever the Lord is leading you to get to the root of the problem. You can, if all there aren't any boundaries. So on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot of education, discuss testing. We look at the evolving symptoms, how progression's happening, and we adjust and we plan along with food, what foods are likely best for them based on what's they're going on, and then possible recommendations in terms of supplementation as well, where we see there's an insufficiency, not necessarily a deficiency, but sometimes there's insufficiencies that conventional medicine misses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is just really interesting to me. I know I'm thinking about actually a personal situation that I was going through. It was both affecting us really, was after my youngest daughter was born. And we were living in Seattle. And, in Seattle, you don't get a lot of sun. So I was not getting the vitamin D I needed. Plus, I was breastfeeding. Plus, I had 3 other children in the home. And we were in a high stress situation with his parents' bowling alley that we were part owners of. And I think all of those things combined, almost a year after she was born, I kind of lost it. And I realized I took a couple weeks because the business was actually across the country. We were living in Seattle and his parents' business was in Atlanta, and they needed a temporary manager while we were in the process of trying to find a new one. And their age was getting up there and they couldn't really do everything themselves. So I went out there for a few months and left my children in Seattle, and I can't believe I did that, but I did. And through that process, I was on this journey with the Lord of what is going on with me. Like, I am feeling so depressed. I don't know why, what is going on with me. And he started showing me, he started speaking to me about the different areas. Like, my hormones were just all over the place, right? From nursing, from not getting enough sun, from all of these different things, from stress. And he started showing me the different things that I needed to do supplement wise to really help, I guess, reset my body. And it was a journey, but it helped. And
Yeah. I think that something that, Sam, we talked about the ability, like you gave the story when you were a kid about the cartilage in your knee and didn't have much or any. And the Lord spoke to you about that. And then you started doing the things he told you to do. And now your knees are fine. And so there's something that I'm sensing in the spirit, which is about not claiming the things that are spoken over us and really going to God, like you
Yes.
just talked about. And what does he say about the situation? So maybe give some examples or just your experience in that when people come to you, and it might start off with, I have this and I have that and I have this. And it's like, well, do you want to keep it? Like, or do you want to claim that, right? Like there's
Right.
diagnosis and then there's the reality. There's like truth and so forth.
You know, first thing I got to say is that the Lord revealed to me that there's no problem there's not a solution for. And once you realize that, it's learning what the strategy is that He's going to give you. I mean, there's never ever been a hopeless case that I've come across. A lot of the people that come to me have been desperate, and that's usually when you're just sick and tired. You just too much pain. Relationships aren't what you want them to be, and then out of desperation, they find me somehow. But there's no situation that I haven't asked the Lord for a solution, even for myself or for somebody else, that He hasn't revealed things to me about a person individually, what they need, and that's what the Lord says. First and foremost, people need to have hope where they think there's been hopelessness. That there's hope for every single situation. I haven't come across any kind of disorder or disease that the Lord hasn't given a solution for. I mean, it's just amazing, but it's true. And this actually, I had to learn this in technology because the Lord did this for me in technology first. He would give me inventions, He'd give me things that would confound the people who invented the technology sometimes. And sometimes He'd give me inventions for things that hadn't needed to exist but hadn't come into existence. So um, we're here to release the kingdom of God on earth. We're here to bring solutions to problems on the earth and wherever it is that God's called us. And if we have health problems, God has the answer. And it's knowing when to surrender to Him, which is always, to find out what His solution is to the problem. Sometimes I think I know what the solution is, and He'll tell me something completely different. Like as I mentioning earlier, one of the solutions I had was, so I suffered from chronic migraines. I'd have 3 attacks a day, and I would be curled up for
Migraines are no joke sometimes.
for 3 days. I'd be curled up like in a ball, and I'd have attack after attack. And then early on, the Lord said, "Oh, you need more magnesium." I'm like, "Oh." So I got more magnesium, and I felt a lot better. And then years later, didn't feel that great again. And I said, "Lord, I feel like I want to die. Just take me home. I don't know what to do with myself." He said, "Lord, just heal me." He said, "You need more magnesium." I said, "Really?" Because at the time, I was using a topical version of magnesium. Magnesium typically at that time, years ago, you would absorb maybe at best 10% of what you were taking. So I was using a topical version, which was much more absorbable. But what I didn't know at the time, there was a limit to how much I could take of that topical, because I found out later on that actually had mercury in it. So I was getting sick when I increased the amount. So the fact that the Lord said I needed more magnesium, I'm like, no, it looked like it was limited. I was just using the wrong form. So I found out more. I got a better form of magnesium, and I just needed more magnesium. And I thought the problem was something else. Again, Lord, I thought the Lord needed to touch me, but I needed the magnesium for my migraines, but I needed it for cellular health. I needed it to maintain and lose weight. I needed it for energy. I needed it for my muscles to relax. I needed it for better bowel movements. I needed it better for my cognitive health. All those things the Lord knew, and I wanted to do something else. Like so many times we want to shortcut what God does because we think we know what the answer is, and He's saying, I want to get to the root of it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you said, Sam, that you were at one point in and out of the hospital in your, I don't know, you said it was your 20s maybe?
All through my life, especially growing up in Africa sometimes, but I was in and out of the hospital all the time, headaches, stomach aches, malaria. I mean, I had all sorts of health issues. I was a very sickly kid. And the only thing that was, genetically, I don't think I had all the advantages. The only advantage I think I had was just athletically, but I was sick most of the time. And so I didn't realize that I could be anything else. It was only until I I was suffering from things that I knew that I said, okay, I've got to do something else. So when, again, I'd mentioned I was bone on bone in my knee, and the Lord showed me what to eat over 3 years, and I grew new cartilage in my knee. He showed me what to do to eliminate my migraines. I had chronic allergies for years, debilitating. I didn't even know what an allergy was till I came to the U.S. We don't have allergies. I mean, I didn't know what it was, so I knew it was something related to food. It was the food, so I changed my diet. So everything I had before and worse. I had new problems that I didn't have before. So one by one, the Lord showed me what to do, and I couldn't imagine where I am right now based on my history. That's the thing I want people to know. Your history is no indication of what your potential is.
That's good. Yeah, I was just thinking about that, Sam, because there may be someone listening and great testimonies of how you've been healed, and also many people that you've worked with that have also gotten their healing also. And some people might be listening saying, yeah, but you don't know my situation, right? And the doubt might be there still, which is, but does God really want to do it for me?
Well, the answer is yes. God definitely wants to do it. He definitely is no respecter of persons. And I've seen it over and over again. So, what brought me into this, what dragged me, quote unquote, from technology into the health space? Because I kind of went a little bit kicking and screaming because it was not familiar to me. But I'd been learning about this because of my own personal journey. And when people literally who hadn't seen me in 10, 15 years saw me, they were like, what on earth happened to you? And whatever it is, I want your help. They literally saw the physical transformation, whether it was weight loss, whether it was my skin, whatever it was, they saw something, a glow. I literally had somebody at the Target a couple of months ago stop me and say, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing for your skin?" So I'm 57 years old. So but despite that, apparently whatever I was doing was having an impact. And so whatever it was, there's a physical manifestation of what God's doing in me. And they stopped me and they wanted my help. And so no matter who you are, no matter what your history is, God wants to do this for you. And there is no problem that God can't solve. It's just a matter of submitting and surrendering to Him, and He will reveal His plan, how He wants to do it, who He wants to do it through, what wisdom He wants to give you, insights that you haven't had before. But I haven't seen a single person that's come to me for help with anything that God hasn't revealed the solution for. I mean, I am talking about things that conventional medicine says are impossible. I remember somebody who had was it diverticulitis, diverticulosis. I mean, diseases that said you're going to have this for the rest of your life. They told me I was going to have migraines for the rest of my life. They told me lots of things that I was going to have the rest of my life, and that's not true. And so even on the topic of hormones, I can think of somebody who they came to me. This was let's call him Joe. Joe came to me, and he was having erectile dysfunction. Now, when I hear erectile dysfunction, immediately I think cardiovascular risk. And so, I talked to him, looked at his paperwork, looked at some of his labs, and it was like, okay, this is actually pretty serious. Going through and giving him what he needed, several things happened. First of all, he lost about 20 to 25 pounds just as a byproduct of getting better cellular health. He didn't ask for that, but that's just a byproduct. And then we got to the root of the ED problem, and the ED problem was gone in a few months. And now we're continuing to work on the root cause, the cause, the ED. But this has changed now his relationship with his wife completely. Now there can be intimacy. There can be intimacy on a level that they didn't have in a long time. And so he saw a symptom of the problem, but it was a much deeper problem.
Yeah.
There. Okay. And then I can think of another example of another person who was having problems with intimacy with their husband, and this woman had couldn't have intercourse because it was painful. She had vaginal dryness. So when we looked into that and we looked into her hormones, we found out that she was low in estrogen, and that was affecting her in several areas of her body. So it's like, okay, so as we started addressing closer to the root cause, the closer you get to the root cause, the more symptoms you relieve and you reverse, basically.
Yeah.
So that's, we're trying to go deeper and deeper until we get to the very end. And so we did some natural things so that she would help increase her estrogen. And in a matter of months, now she's having painless intercourse with her husband, which she hasn't been able to have in years. Okay.
Yeah.
At the same time, she was having problems with sleep. I've had people who, if you're not sleeping well, you don't have much energy to do anything. Your mood isn't that great. You're not necessarily great to be around in general.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I focus on early on, even if they didn't come to me with sleep, I assess your sleep, because if you can't sleep, you can't restore, you can't restock hormones and neurotransmitters. So I look at your sleep. And so this particular person they were having problems with their sleep, and therefore a whole bunch of other things. And then you start looking at, okay, well, what are you insufficient in? What's missing? What are your other symptoms? All those, and what tests do you likely need to confirm suspicions, right? Because usually a collection of symptoms is a pattern. It's pointing somewhere. It's a story.
Yeah.
You got to find out, what is the story here? And once you find out the story, you want confirmation, which is where the testing comes in. Okay, this is what I suspect. Then you start recommending testing in line with that, and you start eliminating the guesswork. It's like, okay, this is it. So now you can truly address the problem by getting that confirmation from all the symptom and the testing. The right testing, by the way, makes a difference. So yeah, so these are just like a couple of cases where how this can change your intimacy and your mood. Again, you're talking about soul, you're talking about body. If you're in pain, you don't want to have sex.
Right.
You're not in the mood. You don't feel like being around people or having sex. So yeah, that's basically what I deal with like all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Norma, I'm interested, when Sam was in and out of the hospital. I mean, when this was going on, you were married, right? And to see the transformation in him, like, how did that impact you? How did that impact, your children? Just interesting to see your side of the story of his transformation.
It was great because I was like, okay, what took you so long? Because he has this ability to just be able to read things and find the solution, and also praying to God. And I've seen him pray to God for a solution. He's asked, and God says, whatever you ask in his name, he gives it to you. And that was amazing for me. That was truly amazing. And I love when he helps people. It just makes me happy. He's helped me. And what I wanted to say also too is, like, we have this term in case management, advocacy. You've heard of it.
Yeah.
You've heard it. You have to be an advocate for yourself, because God is advocating for you. So he wants you to join in that advocation. Make sure, if you're going to go through your doctor, make sure they hear you, because your life is on the line. You are here for a purpose, and God wants you here for a purpose, as long as you can, until he takes you home.
Yeah.
Don't let nothing else take you home other than God.
Yeah.
Advocate. Never stop questioning why. Normal. I don't want to be normal. I remember the last time I went in for my exam, and I told the gentleman, he kept saying, oh, you're normal. I said, I don't want to be normal. And Sam gave me a list of tests, and I said, can you do these? And he just looked at him and said, where'd you get these? I said, can you do these? He said, okay, I'm going to do them. And he did them. Don't stop. I told him, I don't want to be normal. I want to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to advocate. So it pleases me. He's given me strength to do that. When I go visit my regular doctor, I go for checkups. Just you have you have the insurance. Use it.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for.
Mhm.
And then then you can take the other side. You want to go natural way. I look for him. He tells me, okay, you do this, you do that, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I like it when he helps people. And God has given him a gift, and it's there to be used.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, I mean, getting back to just our spirit health, our body health, our soul health. I mean, I'm actually just thinking about like even another personal example from my life is, I mean, we believe in supernatural healing. God can heal people. I mean, we've seen people heal people just like this. I've seen a shoulder, I prayed for someone's shoulder and their shoulder got instantly healed, right? But it doesn't always happen that way. And I had a situation where I've herniated my back multiple times. The first time, I went to the church we were at in Atlanta and I went up to the front to get prayer. I heard a crack. I walked out of there pain free. I got instantly healed. And then chiropractor could see on the x-rays where I had a hairline fracture that had healed. And then a few years later, I re-herniated my back and was praying about it. And the Lord started talking to me about certain things. And I'm like, okay. And I was pushing myself. I was pushing my body very hard. We were actually living in Nigeria at the time. And, I was leading an inner healing ministry and I was helping another nonprofit run these massive, conferences. And I was just pushing myself and pushing myself. And he says, you need to take care of your body. You need to take care of your body. But I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening. I mean, I was getting filled, spiritually. I was getting filled, renewing my mind in the word. I was doing these things for my soul, but I was neglecting my body. And so we moved back to the States. I ended up getting surgery and then I'm like, okay, I'm good. So I'm back on, I'm back on the treadmill, back working hard again, right? And then we moved to California. Within a month, I re-herniated my back. And the Lord's like, I told you, you need to take care of your body. And I just remember that process like, okay, God, I don't want surgery again. And I need you to lead me. Like, what do you want me to do? And I just remember how debilitating it felt. Like just trying to go to the grocery store. Like I can't cook for my family. I can't lift up a gallon of milk because if I do, I'm like about to drop it because I'm in so much pain, right? And feeling like a failure as a wife, like affects your intimacy, affects everything, right? And the Lord started showing me areas like I needed to focus on inflammation. I needed to get my inflammation down. And he just started showing me step by step of things to do. And I would say, strengthen my core. I started going to the gym and I started doing classes. I started doing TRX classes that actually help strengthen my core. And I would say within 6 months, no pain whatsoever, completely pain free. I mean, it's only by the Lord, right?
Absolutely. I usually err on the side of doing all the physical things. I remember even recently we were playing pickleball, and Norma got injured, and I did all the physical. I gave all the things. I helped her get rid of. By the way, you can get rid of scar tissue. By the way, anywhere in the body. So I helped her get rid of scar tissue and all of that, but she's still in pain. And I was like, Lord, well, why isn't she feeling better? He said, well, when are you gonna pray for her? I was like, oh, okay. So I prayed for her, and she was healed instantly. I said, okay. You can always try to. Usually, you err on one side or the other, and the Lord's like, no, you need to ask me for everything. It doesn't, when it's physical and when it's spiritual, whichever way I want to do it is the way I want to do it. I said, okay, so that's what I'll do. And just even speaking back to what Norma was saying about advocacy, you want to be your own advocate. A lot of times I feel like the patient advocate. It's like I'm advocating for you. So whatever this is what I would ask him. Like this is what I would ask him about and say, and you need to advocate for yourself. But I feel like I advocate for people because I know what it's like to be in pain, to suffer needlessly, where you've been told things that aren't true. They aren't the truth, and they aren't true, and there's a solution for it. So I think that was a big thing that Norma said that I just wanted to bring up, that advocacy part, that you need somebody advocating for you, and you need to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to know that there's a realm out there of solutions that most people aren't aware of. When I started doing this, like maybe close to, I would say maybe 28, 30, close to 30 years ago, I was like the health nut. People like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? Because there was no there was no name for what I was doing. The Lord was
Yeah.
showing me these things piece by piece. He started showing me, okay, you need to understand the root cause. I said, okay, you need to. At the time, I didn't know how to really read labs, so at the time, he'd show me how you could take an intersection of symptoms to find out what was going on, like, and then just basically all these things, and then that's when I started learning about testing later on, and even the way you look at the test makes a difference because, like Norma was saying, sometimes you go to the doctor and they say, well, you're normal. You're within the reference range.
Right.
And that reference range is a wide reference range.
It's wide.
It's wide, right? It just says, well, 98% of the population is within this. So you're normal if you're within that. Normal does not mean optimal. It doesn't mean you're thriving. And it doesn't mean you're not suffering. So started looking at those labs and looking at a much narrower range, the optimal range. And if you're outside that optimal range, that's when you need to consider that there can be problems, nutritional insufficiencies and other problems going on. So that's kind of like how things got established.
On the next episode of Seeds for Your Marriage,
I learned to receive the love of God, and receiving his love completely changed who I was. And now I had the capacity to love her the way he was loving me.
Thank you for listening to Seeds for Your Marriage with hosts Trisha and Thomas Walker. We pray this episode has given you tips and tools on how to thrive in your marriage. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Trisha and Thomas.
We want to hear from you. Be sure to leave a review and let us know how we're doing. It's our desire that this podcast completely benefits you. So also let us know future marriage topics that you would like to hear about.